On the night Lydia Harper vanished, nothing about her life suggested she was about to disappear. No arguments, no secret plans, no history of running away. Just an ordinary Tuesday. Lydia was 19 years old, a community college student, part-time cashier, the kind of girl who texted her mom when she was running late, the kind who kept her bedroom clean, the kind who believed that if you did the right things, bad things wouldn't happen to you. That belief would be shattered forever on a dark stretch of road less than 1 mile from her front door. The last normal day, June 4th, 2008, started like any other. Lydia woke up late, rushed through breakfast, and complained about her morning class. She kissed her younger brother on the forehead, grabbed her backpack, and ran out the door, already texting her best friend about weekend plans. That afternoon, she worked a short shift at Miller's Market, a small grocery store on the edge of town. Security cameras would later show her laughing with a coworker at 7:41 p.m. At 8:03 p.m., Lydia clocked out. She sent one final text to her mother. On my way home. Love you. She never sent another message. A walk she had taken 100 times. Lydia didn't own a car. She usually walked home, a quiet 18-minute walk along County Road 12, past open fields, a narrow tree line, and a small creek before reaching her neighborhood. Everyone in town knew the route. It was considered safe. Too safe, some people said. The kind of place where people didn't lock their doors. The kind of place where everyone thought nothing bad could ever happen. That belief made what came next even harder to accept. When Lydia didn't come home, by 9:15 p.m., Lydia still hadn't arrived. Her mother, Karen Harper, tried calling her phone. No answer. By 9:40, Karen was standing on the front porch, scanning the dark road. By 10:30, fear had replaced patience. Karen called the police. At first, they told her not to worry. She's probably with friends. She's an adult. She'll turn up. But Karen knew her daughter. Lydia would never disappear without saying something. By midnight, officers finally agreed to file a missing person report. By then, Lydia had been gone for nearly 4 hours. The first search. Police began searching County Road 12 before sunrise. Flashlights swept across tall grass. Volunteers walked shoulder to shoulder. Dogs were brought in. Nothing. No footprints. No torn clothing. No signs of a struggle. It was as if Lydia had simply vanished into thin air. Then, at 11:17 a.m., a volunteer made a discovery that would turn fear into terror. The shoe, about half a mile from Lydia's house, near the edge of a cornfield, a single shoe lay in the grass. It was Lydia's, a white sneaker. The laces were still tied. There was no blood, no matching shoes. Just one silent piece of evidence, sitting alone in the dirt. For detectives, it meant one thing. Lydia hadn't left willingly. Theories began. Almost immediately, rumors spread through the town. Some said she ran away. Others whispered about a white van seen on the road. A few suggested someone from the grocery store might know more than they were saying. The police questioned everyone. Her co-workers, her ex-boyfriend, her friends, her family. No one had answers. No one had seen anything. And County Road 12 had no streetlights, no cameras, no witnesses. A town on edge. For weeks, search parties continued. The creek was dragged. Fields were walked. Abandoned barns were searched. Nothing. Every mailbox had Lydia's photo. Every local news station ran her face. Her smile became a symbol of hope, and then, slowly, a symbol of loss. As weeks turned into months, the crowds disappeared. As months turned into years, the case went cold. But one person never stopped thinking about that road. The farmer who drove that road every day. His name was Earl Bennett. He was a third-generation farmer whose land stretched for hundreds of acres along County Road 12. Every morning, every evening, Earl drove past the exact spot where Lydia's shoe had been found. He had joined the searches. He had walked his fields. He had told police they could dig anywhere. They found nothing. For 17 years, Earl believed Lydia's case would never be solved. He was wrong. 17 years later, the ground gives up its secret. In the spring of 2025, after weeks of heavy rain, Earl noticed something unusual in one of his lower fields. The soil had collapsed slightly, a shallow depression that hadn't been there before. At first, he thought it was an animal burrow, but when he stepped closer, he saw something that made his stomach drop. Fabric, not from clothing, from a bag. He grabbed a shovel. What he uncovered would shock an entire state. The shocking discovery. Less than 2 feet below the surface, Earl found a rotted backpack, a tangled mess of fabric, and human bones. The police were called immediately. The field was sealed off. Forensic teams arrived. And within 48 hours, dental records confirmed what everyone feared. The remains belonged to Lydia Harper. After 17 years, she had finally been found. But the most terrifying part was where she was buried. Less than 300 yards from where her shoe had been discovered, hidden in plain sight. What this meant, for investigators, this changed everything. It meant Lydia was likely taken, assaulted, and killed the same night she vanished. It meant her killer was familiar with the land. It meant someone had walked past that field for 17 years, knowing exactly what was buried there. And it meant someone in that small town had lived their life free, while Lydia's family lived in hell. But the story was far from over, because when detectives searched deeper, they found something even more disturbing. Something that suggested Lydia may not have been alone. Something that pointed to a killer who may have done this before. And something that would turn County Road 12 into the most feared stretch of land in the region. Her name was Emily Hart, a bright, young woman with dreams bigger than Willow Creek could contain. She worked at the little diner on Main Street, smiling at strangers and humming softly as she wiped tables. Everyone knew her. Everyone liked her. And yet, no one would ever see her again after that fateful evening. It was a Thursday, the kind of Thursday that feels ordinary, unremarkable, until it isn't. Emily left the diner at exactly 10:47 p.m., waving goodbye to her co-workers. She walked a familiar path home, down Pine Street, past the old oak tree, along the riverbank. Every step echoed softly against the cobblestones, but tonight the sound seemed different, heavier, as if the night itself were holding its breath. Halfway home, the streetlights flickered, throwing long, jagged shadows across the pavement. Emily paused. A cold wind rustled her hair, and then she heard it, a whisper almost too soft to notice. Just behind her, she spun around, but the street was empty. The shadows danced, but no one was there. She laughed nervously, telling herself she was imagining things. And with that, she took another step. Pause, the sound of footsteps echoing slowly. But she never reached the next corner. Her footprints ended abruptly in the middle of the road. Her scarf was found later, draped over the fence by the old mill, twisted, as if someone had placed it there deliberately. And then, nothing. Silence. 17 years of silence. Emily Hart was 22. She had dark, restless eyes and a smile that could light the dullest of days. Her life was simple. The diner, her little apartment above the bakery, walks home through the quiet streets of Willow Creek. It was a routine she knew by heart, and one that, on this night, would betray her. She clocked out at 10:47 p.m., the diner emptying behind her. The neon sign buzzed faintly above the door, flickering like a heartbeat. She pulled her coat tighter around herself, feeling the chill settle into her bones. The streets were familiar, yet tonight they felt different, darker, quieter. The fog rolled in low, curling along the pavement like fingers trying to grab at her ankles. Sound cue, faint footsteps, distant dog barking, rustling leaves. She walked past the old oak tree at the corner of Pine Street, the one with gnarled branches reaching like arms into the night. The streetlights overhead flickered, casting jagged shadows that danced across the walls of the buildings. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked, twice, then silence. Emily quickened her pace, telling herself it was nothing, just a night being restless. And then, from an alley to her left, she caught a glimpse of something, a shadow, too quick, too fleeting to be human. It moved, and then it was gone. Her heart skipped a beat. She swallowed hard, hugging her coat tighter. She tried to laugh it off. "Just my imagination," she whispered to herself. As she approached the old iron fence by the mill, something caught her eye. A scarf that she did not recognize, draped over the fence, fluttering slightly in the cold wind. She paused, curiosity mixing with unease. The scarf looked deliberate, like it was left there as a warning, a sign, or maybe a trap. Pause. Wind intensifies slightly. Footsteps echo more slowly. She shook her head and stepped around it. The fog thickened. Her footsteps echoed against the empty road. Every sound felt amplified. The creak of a sign swinging in the breeze, the distant drip of water from a gutter, a rustle from behind the dumpster. Emily's pulse raced. She glanced behind her. Nothing. Just shadows. And then it happened. Just like that, she vanished. Her footprints stopped abruptly in the middle of the road. Her scarf lay crumpled on the fence. And the whole town, held its breath, waiting, hoping, for a miracle that never came. Long pause, music swells, then fades into silence, leaving only distant wind and soft, eerie echoes. No one would know what truly happened that night, not yet. But what was coming would not stay hidden forever. Time, they say, heals all wounds. But in Willow Creek, time only buried them for a while. The investigation into Emily Hart's disappearance slowly went cold. Weeks turned into months. Months became years. Leads ran dry. Tips turned into dead ends, and Detective Harris, burdened by countless cold cases, eventually moved on to the next one. The town tried to move on too, but a shadow lingered over every street and every corner where Emily once walked. Her mother, Martha, clung to memories. She kept Emily's room the same, the lavender scent, the photographs, the little knickknacks she had adored. On quiet nights, she would whisper Emily's name into the darkness, hoping for an answer that never came. And while the town's attention shifted, her grief became a silent companion, growing heavier with each passing year. Music shifts slightly, more somber, subtle heartbeat-like undertone. Life in Willow Creek returned to its slow, sleepy rhythm. The streets seemed quieter now, but the fog that rolled in each night carried with it a sense of waiting. Something was not at rest. Something was waiting, patient, unseen. 17 years later, the story that had gripped the town faded into memory, except for one man, John Miller, a quiet farmer, middle-aged, who had lived on the outskirts of Willow Creek his entire life. His days were simple, tending to his fields, feeding his animals, repairing fences, and plowing his land from sunrise to sunset. The events of the town rarely touched him. He didn't know Emily Hart. He didn't care for gossip. His life was the soil, the crops, and the rhythm of the seasons. Sound cue, plowing through soft earth, faint creak of wooden wheels, occasional bird calls. But that year, something about the land felt different. As he dug his plow into the soil, he noticed mounds that shouldn't be there, lumps of earth that seemed oddly fresh, though nothing had been planted. He smelled things that didn't belong. The tang of iron, a faint sweet rot that made his stomach twist. And sometimes small objects appeared, a rusty can, a broken chain, a fragment of wood, as if the land itself was leaving messages, waiting for someone to notice. Music built subtly, tension rising, low drones in the background. At first, John dismissed it. The fields were messy. Animals disturbed the soil. Weather could shift the earth. But as the days passed, he began to feel it, a pull, a sense that something was. Pause. Music drops to near silence, only faint echoing dripping in the hum of fear. And then he saw it, something that should not exist, staring at him from the darkness. Long. Heavy pause, lantern flickers, shadows dance. No music for several seconds, just silence, then a faint, almost imperceptible whisper. And in that moment, John realized that the nightmare that had claimed Emily Hart had not ended 17 years ago. It had been waiting. And now it has found him. When John emerged from the cellar, the night air hit him like a blow. The lantern swung in his trembling hands, casting long, grotesque shadows across the field. The town of Willow Creek would never be the same again. Word spread quickly, faster than John could process. People rushed to the edge of the Miller farm, flashlights cutting through the darkness, faces pale with fear and disbelief. Detective Harris was called back, older now, weariness etched into his face. Even he, a man who had seen countless horrors, felt a shiver crawl up his spine. The cellar, its contents, and Emily's preserved body challenged everything he thought he knew. Skepticism fought with undeniable evidence, and the line between reality and nightmare blurred. Sound cue, murmurs of the crowd, shocked gasps, footsteps running through grass. Meanwhile, Martha Hart, Emily's mother, was rushed to the scene. Seeing her daughter, after all these years frozen in time, shattered her in ways words could never capture. She dropped to her knees, whispering desperate prayers, tears streaking to the dirt on her hands. The grief of 17 years came crashing back, heavier than ever. In the midst of chaos, John clutched Emily's diary. Flipping through the pages, he saw the fragments of her final days. The entries hinted at betrayal. Someone she trusted, someone close, who had lured her toward danger. Shadowy figures, strange gatherings, and symbols etched in secret places. Emily had known she was being hunted, and she had tried, in vain, to warn the world. Music, low, suspenseful hum, with occasional high, piercing tones signaling dread. But it wasn't just the cellar that terrified the town. Strange occurrences began immediately. People reported shadows moving along streets that should have been empty, lights flickering deep in the forests. Whispers carried on the wind, indistinct but unmistakable. Something in Willow Creek had awoken, something that had always waited beneath the town's calm, ordinary surface. John tried to tell the authorities, to explain what he had found, but skepticism met him at every turn. "You're imagining things," they said. "It's just an old cellar, old relics, nothing more." And yet, the shadows that followed him, the whispers in the night, the uneasy feeling that someone or something was always watching, told him the truth. The town's past had claws, and it would not let go. Pause, soft, chilling music lingers, wind, faint rustle of leaves, distant animal cries. Night after night, John would see things. A figure in the woods that disappeared when approached. Lights that danced without source. The land itself seemed restless, remembering old sins, whispering secrets in a language older than any living person in Willow Creek. He realized then that Emily's disappearance was only the beginning. What the town had buried 17 years ago had grown stronger, hungrier, waiting for the right moment. And in that terrible realization came the final truth. The town thought the nightmare ended 17 years ago, but in reality it had only just begun. Music swells dramatically, then drops into tense silence, leaving the audience frozen, imagining what horrors are yet to come. John stared at the cellar, now exposed in the pale light of dawn. The horror he had uncovered, the secrets buried beneath Willow Creek, for decades, it weighed heavily on him. He knew the town wasn't ready. They might never be ready. Some things, he realized, were meant to remain buried. With trembling hands, he began to replace the boards, shoveling dirt back into the mound. Each scoop of earth felt heavier than the last, as if the land itself were resisting, reluctant to close. He left a small note, tucked under a rock, a warning, a plea, a fragment of truth. But he knew it would not be enough. The darkness that had taken Emily, the presence that lingered beneath the town, was patient. It waited, it always waits. Sound cue, wind rustling through tall grass, faint dripping from the cellar, distant animal calls, all unnervingly still. As he straightened, looking across the fields he had worked his entire life, John felt the weight of human fear pressing down. The fear of the unknown. The fear of what lies hidden beneath ordinary ground, beneath ordinary lives. Willow Creek was a town of secrets, and some secrets, he knew, never die. Music softens, almost silent, just a faint, eerie hum in the background. And sometimes when the wind whispers through the fields of Willow Creek, you can still hear her footsteps, walking home but never arrived. Long, haunting pause. Music fades completely into silence. Only the sound of wind lingers for a moment before darkness.